Meeting, well, this is the call to order for the Amherst County Service Authority meeting. Let the record reflect, it is June 1st, 2021, and the time is 1:30. First on the agenda is citizen comments. I see no citizens at this point. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions, deletions, or questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Motion on the floor by Ms. Moore. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have the approval of the minutes for May 4th, 2021. Any questions?
No, sir, Mr. Chair, I move the approval of minutes.
All right, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Perro for the approval of the minutes on May 4th. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, Mr. Hopkins, monthly financial report for April 2021.
Yes, sir. How y'all doing today?
Good.
Let's see. All right, we continue our slowdown. I mean, if you all recall, the January and February I reported we had really started off like a lion, and then last month we slowed, or for March we slowed down a little bit. In April we slowed down a little bit more, but we're still doing very well. Water sales are over 181,000. Better than 19% better than 2020 through the same period of last year. Total revenues are more than 162,000, 15.1% better than last year. We're lagging in connections, though. I think we did do several water connections this past month, so I'm hoping that's going to pick up in the next financial report. Wastewater revenues compared to 2020 through this far through 2020. We are 27,000, or almost 11% ahead of last year. Total revenues were 11,600, or a little bit over 4% better than last year. And connections were even. Sales, total combined water and wastewater sales were almost 210,000, 17.37% ahead of the same period last year. And total revenues just under 174,000, or 12.7%. Better than last year through the same period. So we're doing real well so far, though, even with the slowdown, and we've gotten some water and sewer connections over the last month that I hope is going to pick us up even more next year, especially the wastewater. And Mr. Woods, last month you asked a question about where we are with the budget, with the revenues compared to the budget, so I went ahead and updated these two charts. And you can see, first of all, can you all pull these things up? Last month there was a problem with you all pulling up the attachments. No problem? Okay. All right. So if you look at the first one, you can see that we took a big dip for April compared to the first 3 months versus the projected budget. And I'm assuming, I don't really know, but I'm assuming that's just because the books that were, of course, we read. Most of our connections are residential, and we read the residential every other month, so I'm assuming that was probably all that was, is why that's a dip, along with probably some COVID impacts, and I'm expecting that to pick up again next month. But if you look at the next chart, that shows the cumulative, and we're still to the good through April, about a little bit better than $44,000 compared to my projection of how the budget would lay out throughout the year. One of the other things I wanted to, if you go to the actual report itself, the financial report, go to page 5. I've talked a few times about this. Every year we write off the bad debts in December, and hope that when these people, a lot of them are just people that skip out on their bills, move away, and we report them to the state, and the state has this program where if they have a tax return or some other way they're getting money back in future years, they keep those names on hand, on record, and we get some of that money back. And if you look at page 5, you'll see that last month, or at least for April, we got better than $9,000 back from the state through that program. So it doesn't happen very often, but I mean, that's a significant amount of money for this program. So, and that's all I've got on the monthly report, unless you all have any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I do have some detailed questions. Actually, I want to make sure I'm on the right spot. I'm actually looking at the at the next agenda, or not the next agenda, but the finance report. So why don't you, have you finished that piece of it yet?
I'm sorry.
The finance portion, I've got a question on the bill too.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
All right. I was having a little trouble tracking the Appalachian Power bills. There's some labels here that I don't understand. There's filter plant, treatment plant, and Elon Road. And if you look back month over month, sometimes the big dollar amount, which I assume is the treatment plant, $6,000 a month, which
Yes,
is
sir.
not right, but actually not bad. I've seen that bounce around between a couple different labels.
Really?
Yeah.
I had never noticed that before.
So if you, let's see, I just checked back to January, for instance. January has a $6,000 bill labeled filter plant. Elon Road has a $7,000 bill. And we're showing filter plant being $31, but that doesn't make sense for a filter plant. And Elon being substantially less than that. So it's really a question about labeling and and if those labels are accurate. And I think, I looked at the last one also, I think that it said, if you wouldn't mind just checking.
Yeah, I will. I'll get that cleared up. We actually have, if I remember correctly, 3 different accounts at the water plant. The water plant itself, plus the first shed, when you drive into the water plant on the left, and then the cruise shed in the back.
And the reason I was looking into this is because later on in the agenda, we're going to talk about the rebate. So I was kind of curious how that worked and how it all tied in together.
Okay, I'll get that taken care of. Thank you for pointing that out. I had never noticed it before.
All right, any other questions? All right, we'll move on to old business, staff report.
Nothing much working on the James River Bank Stabilization Project. I'm having all kinds of trouble getting through to the lady at Ben Klein's office who offered to help me with this earmark request for budgeted money for the project, but I'll keep working on that. The Woodview Drive water main replacement, last month I had included a map showing where the new water line would go, and you all couldn't open it. So if you want to see it, the map is in there. Just shows where we were planning on putting it. And I've got about 50% of the property owners out there that have responded that they're okay with giving us an easement to put that water line in. I'm still working on the rest of them. Similarly, on the Lakeview Drive sewer project, I've got about 50% of the easements pretty much tied down. So hopefully I'm hoping within the next 30 days we can bid that work and get that work done this summer. Woody's Lake Road, that project has been closed out. We got the final VDOT reimbursement. We'll be talking about that in new business to get that appropriated into the budget. But that'll be the last time you see that on this report. VC Mobile Home Park, waiting for July 1st, and I'll contact Delegate Walker's office again about the funding and how we access it and what those procedures are. Graham Creek Reservoir Dam Improvements Project, Hurd and Profit's still working on their design. I met with the property owners on the other side of Graham Creek from the treatment plant on May 22nd to talk about putting a stone revetment on that side to protect the bank, as we've not only because it's their property, but our water line from the reservoir to the water plant goes right through there. So we really need to protect that. And they were all over. They expressed a lot of appreciation that we thought of them, and they said they really would appreciate if we could do something for them. And if you stand at the end of the spillway and look across the bank, and you're looking at their property, you wonder how the heck we would ever get there. But we went to their property that Saturday. They've got a hay road that goes from Eland Road right to it. I mean, literally right to where we want to do the work, so it works out real well. Westvale Court Sanitary Sewer Extension, I'm just waiting for the developer. He's told me he's got the agreement. He says he's agreed to the agreement, and I'm waiting for him to bring it back with the initial partial payment on the tap fees, and then we will get that work started. The Business Friendliness Initiative, we'll be talking in new business about the Priority 1B, the calculated availability fees. Those are the county code changes we've been talking about the last couple of board meetings. The major upgrade to the communications efforts, I'm planning on turning that over to the assistant director once he finishes the risk and resiliency assessment, so he can jump on that and spend a good bit of time on it. He's going to be he's going to have more ability to do that kind of work than I do anyway. He's more in tune with that kind of stuff. And then COVID-19, we mailed the public service announcement number 9 to about 60 customers last week, and we've already gotten a few of the applications back for money. If all 60 respond, then we can we got about $6,100, so we're not going to be able to help out anybody very much if everybody responds, but I mean, $100 is better than nothing. And that's all I've got on old business, unless you all have any questions.
All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead, Mr. Hopkins, move on to new business. We have appropriations.
Yes, sir. This is what I just alluded to a couple of minutes ago. This is the last appropriation for the Woody's Lake Road water and sewer line relocations from the VDOT project. They put $267,260.75 in our bank account on the 14th, and I just need to get it appropriated into the budget to eliminate any deficits we've got from paying that bill to the contractor earlier this year.
All right, board, what's your pleasure?
First, I would say, Mr. Hopkins, good job with the way you work with VDOT to get a lot of those costs deferred.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, sir.
And with that, I'd make a motion that the ACSA board appropriate the money requested in the attached request form to eliminate a deficit in the 2021 budget created when VDOT reimbursed ACSA for Woody's Lake Road water and sewer replacement.
All right, there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Martin. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
All right, next we have the proposed ordinance 2021-0003.
Yes, sir. This is the county code changes we've been talking about regarding the availability fees for the last few board meetings. I emailed those to you on the 24th. I want to make sure you all had a chance to read the resolution and the public hearing announcement. And so all I'm really, it hasn't changed any, except for we added, it was number 129. I think Mr. Perot had added something. He had asked a question about, what's on 129? Well, actually, it was all four. Mr. Perot has sent me an email with some changes to it, and that was just the final update that I sent you all last month. So what I'm looking for, of course, it's your all's decision, but if you all are okay with it, I've already got it, got the public hearing on the 15th, publicly announced in the paper, and it'll be read. I guess what I'm looking for is approval from you all and a request that it be forwarded to the supervisors for their meeting this afternoon for the first reading of the ordinance, and then on the 15th, there would be a public hearing.
All right, board, we've looked at this for 3 months in a row, I believe. We've all seen it, emailed it, made changes. At this point, is there any other discussion that you all would like to have?
I just have one question, and I'm not sure about, I don't know if it just flew past me or what, but on the priority service area definition, okay? So I understand what you're saying is, okay, within 250 feet of water or sewer, right?
Yes, sir.
You'll have to connect. Is that from the property line? Is that from the structure? How does that work?
Well, I don't think that's even defined in the county code. I've always defined it as property line. The premises are the property line as far as I'm concerned.
Would it be clearer if we listed it as property line? Would that cause a big issue, or?
No, we can certainly put another definition in that, in section 15121.
Well, can we do that right now? Just add, I mean,
Is that
with
going to
the,
mess up your public notice? Or?
No, sir. Mr. Popovich, what I'm thinking that, I mean, if the public hearing, if anybody had any questions that would result in changes, we would make the changes then, and then the resolution would be revised accordingly, correct? And the supervisors would adopt it at that point?
Right, for purposes of making a change right now, need to make the change and then make sure that it's put into the agenda packet with the change so that the public knows everything that is up to date.
Well,
So that
I'm
you
just,
can-
so I'm just bringing that up to see what the rest of my board members think. I think it would be clearer if we defined
Or
where it was.
alternatively, you could direct the director to move this forward to the board of supervisors with a recommendation of including an additional defined term.
Okay.
Then
All right.
then he can add it at the board meeting, right? Then it will be part of the official document as it moves forward after that.
So that was my first question. Can Mr.
Can I
Perry?
respond to
Yeah,
that?
sure.
And just, because when I was reading through it, I noticed that the term priority service area was embedded in the document of mine. So I pulled out, in the first paragraph, it described what it was, and you can see it lined out. So I took that almost word for word and suggested that that be the definition. But the question that you asked is a good one. The priority service area is an area, it's like a boundary around the line. So I think that definition is right. But the question you asked is a premise the parcel or the structure?
Right.
And I think that's a good question. So the question is, how do we define, and you see premises located throughout the document here. So the question is, do we define premise? And is,
To me, it just needs to be clear that it's the property line and not the structure, for one.
Yeah, I assumed it was the property line.
Um,
So, yeah.
And you know how, yeah, I mean, it's all great until somebody questions it.
I thought it was a structure. See?
Yeah, so,
Well,
and then,
it's up to you all to define that.
It's fine. I think we should move forward with defining it as the property line.
I agree.
Is that a consensus?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm just trying to figure out how that fits in. That's all. I was thinking about it in the greater context. But yeah, I agree with you. It should be.
Well, okay. If we go down to, what section does it actually say they shall connect to it?
It's 128A. But, yeah, the revised
Any
A.
premise constructed.
Any premises constructed.
I think a premise is a building, and it may be constructed, and that premise, if the parcel on which that premise is constructed falls in the service area, then that would be the flag. That would be the trigger point, right?
See, I think, and we're just debating, right?
Yeah.
Or talking. I think it might be best to include it in the definition of priority service area.
Can you just take the word area and define that as the property line encompassed within 250 feet?
Could.
I wish I'd have caught this sooner, but,
250 feet, no, probably.
Attorney, can you wordsmith that?
Or Mr. Hopkins or somebody.
somebody.
Yeah, just,
I like Mr. Martin's original idea, just define premises and make it property line being defined as the premises.
all right.
That would be the easiest way to do it. Otherwise, you're talking about a lot of changes to what's in this document.
But if you read A as any premises constructed, property line, does that make sense? Any property line constructed?
It does to me. If you define premises as the entire property instead of you don't define it as the building. I mean, to me, premises is what you own. It's the land that you own.
Usually that's true. Usually, from a legal perspective, the premises is the entire parcel, not just the building.
Okay.
Okay, that helps me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's a legal.
Yeah, I mean, from general contract, defining terms, premises usually incorporates the entire lot.
Well, if that's your opinion and that's the case, then we really don't need to change anything to it.
Well, it doesn't hurt you to add the definition of premise within the ordinance so that it's clear for everybody.
Okay.
So there's no question going
Well,
forward.
true, yeah. So, so can we just add the definition of premise? All right. Can you work that up,
Sure.
you guys?
So,
The power?
so do we need a motion to direct the
You
executive director to?
you would need a motion to move proposed ordinance provisions onto the board of supervisors with the inclusion of a definition of premises.
So I guess we ought to hold on to that motion until you've answered your rest of your questions.
Yeah, so my next question is, okay, so if you're within that 250-foot area, but the line is, let's say the line is 100 feet away, but you're within that 200 feet, who pays to extend the line? Does the service authority help, or is that all on the owner?
No, we're talking about service connections, that would all be on the property owner.
Okay. Because the way some other localities do it is based on like number of units, all right? So per linear foot of line, so like, let's say you add 50 units, which we'd love to add 50 units, right? But if you add 50 units, then the service authority in this case would extend that line for free.
Not
But
if
I
I have
guess-
my way. The way I would do it, I'd go back to the property, to the developer and say, we will help you with it, because we want to forward your project, but you
Well,
know,
that's-
you're going to pay part of it too.
That's what I was getting to, but you could always bring that to the service authority if it was, okay.
Yeah.
I'm
And
fine.
there is another section in the code, and I'm hoping I understand it correctly, that if a developer pays for the extension of a public service line, and say say there's like 10 lots in a row, his is the 10th lot, so you're extending across these other 9 that have not connected, there's a section in the code, if I understood it correctly, that if any of those 9 tie in, then they pay a frontage fee in addition to the tap fees, and at least a portion of that money goes back to the original developer who paid for the water line to be installed.
Okay. So I'm fine.
All right. Well, we need a motion.
Is that your motion, Turner, or do you want me to make?
Yeah, you're on a roll.
What he said, I guess.
Yeah.
So I make a motion that we move this forward to the Board of Supervisors this afternoon with the inclusion of a definition for premise.
All right, motion on the floor by Mr. Martin. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
All right. Let's see here. Are we on to C, 2021 Demand Response Program?
Okay, for the new board members, we've had a program for many years now where there's a program called Demand Response, and it has to do with power. And what happens is the power companies in this area have a company, I guess there's like a broker. And one of the things they're tasked to do is to contact major power users and prepare for a possible, especially like in the middle of the summer, a brownout. Because, you know, if people are using an awful lot of power, and these major users, like our filter plant, can overtax the facilities. So what they do is they actually pay these big power users like us a certain fee to go through and, well, first of all, there has to be a generator. And they pay us to check our system to make sure we can get off the grid and onto our generator, and so that, you know, it relieves that much more demand so they can use it during the brownout. And so they pay us for that test, and they also pay us for if it actually ever happens. So we've been doing this for several years. And we switched to, from a group called Internoc to a group called NRG 3 years ago, I think. And because there's more fees coming from NRG than Internoc. And last year, we got about $2,400 from NRG. And you'll see attached their projection for this year, which is almost $3,900. It's not a lot of money, but, you know, every little bit helps, and it's free money. We need to go through and check our generator every year anyway. So it works out better for everybody. So that's just for your information, unless you all have any questions.
I do have a couple of questions, that's all right, Mr. Chair, just because I'm really interested in this, anything you can do to save energy, I think it's good. Is there any way to, as you plan for this in the summer months, start, well, what's your plan cycle now? How many hours is your plan on?
Yeah, well, it's really up to them. They tell us when we need to do it.
Typically, when did, you mean your operators tell you when to do it?
No, the
No,
company.
no, the NRG tells us when to do it.
Right, so.
I think we're off for like,
Typically, are you, a 16 hour? Are you
no,
running the plant
no, I don't
16
think it's
hours?
that. I think it's like 3 hours.
That's why you're running the
I
plant?
think so.
So would an alternate also be to run the plant at night on when you have those high peak times or in those off-peak hours?
It's an alternate, but that means getting people to work
Oh, I understand.
those hours, and nobody wants to work in the middle of the night if they don't have to. And we've never had the problem, so,
Are y'all-
but that is an option.
Are y'all saying the same thing?
I don't know.
He's asking you how many hours a day does
Does-
the plant operate? Is it
From-
24? Is it-
I think they start 7 in the morning and go till noon, 11, and then there's a 2-hour shut-off, and then they start up again at 1 o'clock and go till, I think, 7 or 8 in the evening.
Okay. All right, so you pause in the middle of the day. and then-
Yes, sir.
So I was just wondering if you could also, instead of run the generator cycle your plant operating times to be off-peak. I know you have to work with diurnal demand, but
It is an option. Again, we don't want the staff to have to do that. I mean, nobody really wants to. And we have to exercise the generator every month, anyway, to make sure it is ready to work when we really do need it.
because I've been hearing nightmares, and this is to my second question, the stories about air pollution and permits for generators for air quality.
We haven't had a problem.
Hopefully we do not have that.
No. Matter of fact, what's part of the NRG application, we had to get them a copy of our permit and give them several documents that showed that we are permitted, and this is, that we're okay with the state, and they wouldn't have agreed to the contract if we weren't clear that way.
Great, that's good news, because like I said, I've heard that's been a problem for other utilities, but they have to get an air quality permit to go along with.
Well,
It may be a size thing.
I think it's part of the actual generator permit. You've got to have the air quality agreement as part of it.
Good. Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions? We're going to go ahead and go to the Water and Wastewater Professional Appreciation Day, which is June 30th, 2021.
Okay, a few years ago, both the supervisors and this board, well, first of all, the state designated June 30th as Water and Wastewater Professionals Appreciation Day. And then this board did it and requested and got the supervisors to do it also. So what I'm asking is that this board authorize the board chair to join me in a letter of commendation or letter of appreciation to staff to be issued on that day. I've also ordered T-shirts having to do with this for everybody in staff, having to do with this day, and also the award we just got from the state, from VDH.
All right, board, this sounds like something we should obviously do. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that the board authorize the chair and the executive director to sign the letter of appreciation to staff in recognition of Water and Wastewater Professionals Appreciation Day for June 30th.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. I know that you all, a lot of your people, they work a lot of hours, they're on call 24 hours a day, and they do put a lot of time in. You're pretty much married to the job, from what I've understood. And so we do absolutely appreciate all your employees and the people that make the water safe every day.
Thank you very much. I'll pass that on.
We take it for granted, but it's very important that we have clean water. As you've seen by some of the incidents, let's take Flint, Michigan as an example. So we appreciate what you do.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we go on to the Prices Store water storage tank, cell phone tower lease amendment.
Okay. This, I'm hoping we can put all this behind us. I started in, June 1st of 2016. In March of 2017, Dan, who was still director, Dan French, the previous director, got a letter from AT&T asking for an amendment of their cell tower lease to extend the lease and also change the rate, change the rent, and change the terms of the schedule of terms for the rent escalation. And Dan didn't want to deal with it, so he was about ready to retire, so he just turned it over to me. And I've been working on this since March of 2017, so a little over 4 years on trying to get this thing done. I don't know if you're really interested, but I included a chart just showing the projection of the negotiations. From then until about a year, 2018, I worked with one guy at AT&T, and we finally got pretty much everything all worked out. And I thought we were done, and then the guy that I was working with disappeared. I've never heard from him since, and a year went by, and then somebody new from AT&T got involved. And the original guys, he wanted us to take about a 20% cut in rent and also a reduction in the rent escalator of about 60%. And I wasn't about to agree to that. But I finally got him back up by the end of that first year to keeping the rent the same and a reduction of the rent escalator from 25%, which is really kind of outlandish, to a more reasonable 15%. That's what the county charges. I got that from Mr. Profit. But then, like I said, we got to that agreement, then this guy disappeared, and then this new guy came on about a year later and contacted me, and his initial proposal was worse than the first guy's. He wanted us to take almost a 75% cut. I mean a 25% cut in rent, and also that the same 60% cut in the rent escalator. So it took 2 years to get him back up to the point where we're keeping the rent where it is, and the rent actually, we changed from one term to another, so the rent went from about $2,000 a month to about $2,600 a month, and we're going to keep that. And the rent escalator is a more reasonable figure, and we finally got this all through the AT&T and their attorneys. Mr. Lockaby has been worked on this with me for about 3 years, and he's okay with all this. So I would really like to put this thing to bed once and for all. So what I'm looking for is authorization to execute and record this lease agreement, or this lease agreement amendment for the changes in the rent and the escalator. It also involves an extension of the rent. Extension of the lease from 2029, which is when it's going to expire right now, to 2050. So 21 years.
All right, it's a long time coming. So, board, any discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the ACSA Board authorize the ACSA Executive Director to execute and record the attached third amendment to ACSA's cell tower lease agreement with AT&T/New Singular Wireless on ACSA's price store water storage tank property in Massanutten.
All right, motion on the floor by Mr. Perro. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next we got miscellaneous matters.
Okay, I got a few things to talk about, along with at least one that came up late, so I didn't have a chance to add it. First one is the next board meeting, the July board meeting, is the day after the Independence Day holiday, and this board has had not a habit, but fairly regularly they cancel that meeting. So I just wanted to bring that up to you all and see if you all wanted to cancel the July Service Authority Board meeting, or whether you want to keep it.
I'm fine with canceling it. We typically, that has been the policy, it's there around the holiday. Unless you all really want to come and enjoy Mr. Hopkins talk to us for an hour or so.
I'm fine with canceling it.
I do enjoy Mr. Hopkins, but unless there's anything pressing in July.
I saw the wry look on your face when you said that.
All right. Well, that sounds great to me. I'll make the motion that we cancel the July 5th board meeting, the Service Authority Board meeting. Motion on the floor. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So that's great.
Wesley wants to know if he gets vacation pay for that day.
Holiday pay, huh?
Take comp time.
Okay, the next item under miscellaneous matters is I'd reported at the last board meeting about the award from the Department of Health, but we hadn't actually gotten it yet. And actually, the day after the May meeting, it arrived in the mail, so I just included a copy of it as an attachment so you all can see it. It is the silver award, which is one below the gold, which almost the only group I've ever known that ever got it, got into a lot of trouble because they were falsifying records, so.
That's an A for easy.
So, okay. And I mentioned the T-shirts. The next item is the River Edge Trail non-interference agreement, and we're still trying to get the escrow agreement signed by agreed to by the contractor. And the contractor actually started work before they did the pre-construction videos that, determined the damages. And I didn't find out about it until about a week after he started, but as soon as I found out about it, I called the county building official who got in hold of Mr. Profit and Mr. Bryant, and the work was shut down. And I have since gotten the inspection reports, but not the videos, and the contractor has still not agreed to the escrow agreement yet. So as far as I know, the construction is still shut down and will stay shut down until all this stuff gets done. The next item is the 2020 Consumer Confidence Report. Of course, we got to do this every year. EPA requires it. EPA is actually trying to now double the number of times. They want us to do these things twice a year. They haven't gotten that through approved yet, but they've been talking about it for about the last 2 years. But right now, we're still doing it once, and I've included a copy of the report for 2020 is attached for you all to take a look at. The next item is a staff retirement. Water operator Class 2 Dylan Byers left. Got the notice at the end of May. He's actually leaving to join the operator who left in January, Josh Ford, up at the Lexington plant. So I've got ads placed in the county paper and Lynchburg paper and also online, and I hope to get him replaced as soon as possible. And the only other thing I want to talk about is, and this is the thing that came up at it actually came up within the last couple of weeks. We got a notice of violation from the Department of Health. And what happened was that, every month we've got to do 15 bacteriological tests to make sure that the disinfection of the water, we take this test throughout the water system. And we send them to the state lab, and they come back and say everything's cool. There's no everything is absent any growth. Well, in about mid-May, we got a report from the health department that the state lab had reported to them that we only had 14 recordable test results, which is, of course, that's one less than 15. And we sent in, I've talked to all our people, we sent in all 15, and I talked to the guy, the VDH guy in Lexington, and he said this is not the first time that this has happened, is that every once in a while the people at the lab, they're understaffed, and sometimes they get an awful lot of samples coming in for testing at the same time, and one gets misplaced. And he mentioned that just a few months ago they found one that they had misplaced about 3 months before. And that utility also got the same NOV. So the guy at the health department said, if you're going to get an NOV, this is the NOV you want. There's no fine. The only thing we have to do is put a notice, notice in next year's Consumer Confidence Report. It doesn't affect our eligibility for any awards from the health department for waterworks performance. And he said it's really not that big a deal. He actually, I asked him, or we asked him to talk to the lab. He said if the lab would own up to the fact that they probably misplaced it, then he wouldn't have had to issue an NOV. The lab refused to do that. So by regulation, they had to issue us the NOV. But he said it's really not that big a deal. But I wanted to let you all know.
Do you document where you send the samples out?
Well, that was one of the things that we hadn't been doing. See, several years ago, we were using FedEx or Airborne or somebody like that, so we had the information. And but a few years ago, to save money, somebody decided that it would be cheaper just to take it over to the health department in Lynchburg and let the samples go out with them for the stuff that they send to the state lab. And it's never been a problem up to now, and if I had known that was going on, I would have stopped it right away, because I agree with you. Everything like this should be documented. But but it's been that way for a while, and so we got caught up on this, but we have, I've talked with the operators, and we now have a system set up where as soon as it gets sent in, we are contacting the health department, or I'm sorry, the state lab, to make sure, to get documentation that they received it. And if that doesn't work out, then we're going to go back to FedEx.
All right, any other questions?
Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's unfortunate that, because I'm sure you sent them.
We did.
Yeah.
And that's what the guy from the health department, he said, I know you sent it. I mean, I've got your records right in front of me. You guys never miss this kind of thing. He said he's very positive that the lab just misplaced it.
Well, it happens. I mean.
It does, and I appreciate that you guys are taking steps to kind of document chain of custody, so that's good.
Thanks, sir. And actually, I thought I had something else, but it slips my mind what it was. So I guess I'm done, unless you all have anything for me.
Nope. All right, we'll go on citizen comments. Anybody wishing to speak under citizen comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and go to matters from members of the board. Mr. Ms. Moore?
I have two things. One, Mr. Hopkins, I don't know what it'll take to get the new Service Authority logo on the agenda, but that would be nice.
I'm trying to do that.
Okay,
I
perfect.
mean, I've talked, again, I'm trying to get hold of the people from Civic Clerk that will enable me to do it. I talked to Rachel about it before she left, and she never got around to it, and I just haven't gotten around to talk to Kristen, but I will get it done. Thank you.
Perfect. And the second thing is, we had the Ridge Street resident that had reached out about the water pressure.
Mhm.
And you had given an explanation, but I was looking for creative ways to maybe fix that. I don't know if you've had time to contemplate that or think about that. Just wanted to follow up.
I've talked to staff, and the only way to do it would be to raise the tank. I mean, right now, we fill the tank almost right up to the overflow. We keep it a few inches below that because, pumping water that distance, you can't always control it. We don't want it to overflow. And so we're leery about, even if we picked it up those few inches, it wouldn't make that much difference. So unless we raise the tank or put in a pump, there's really not much we can do.
So, and I'm not mechanically inclined that way, but this problem didn't happen with these residents until the new houses went up on Ridge Street. So they never had any problem before then. So I don't know, to me, in my head, the level in the water tank doesn't necessarily apply because they didn't have that problem before.
Oh, it could be water use. You got more water use, so, I mean, the water level in the tank is just coming down that much further, that much faster. That's the only thing I can think of.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So it's not a static, you don't believe it to be a static issue, or you think, or is it, you have too much velocity at once?
No, we just put in a brand new, the water line up until 2-3 years ago was a 60-year-old galvanized line. We just replaced it with a new 6-inch PVC line 2 years ago. So I really don't think it's a flow situation. I think it's the tank.
So I don't know how you fix it.
That's
That's where I'm at.
Well, again, we can, if you all want to spend the money, we can go through and lift the top of the roof of the tank up and put in another row of panels. It's going to cost a fortune.
So is she not getting enough pressure? Or-
The pressure fluctuates. It's either too much or too less. And they didn't have the problem until the new houses went up, which I know we put in the new water lines, but to me, the level in the water tank doesn't make sense that they would have fluctuating pressure. And like I said, I don't know the engineering behind that. Until the new residents went up, they were fine.
Well, let me ask you, you said something a second ago that I wasn't aware of. You said sometimes you've got too much pressure?
That's what the email from the gentleman I thought said, that it
No,
fluctuates.
he was just talking, he said it fluctuates, but he's just talking about it goes up and down. He didn't say that they have too much pressure.
Well, up and down, it's either too much or too little, in my mind.
And again, part of the problem is, again, that as I explained in the email at the time, all of you all, or the people who live right there, I mean, the tank is right there. And so you're at a high point. So you're not getting the benefit of being at a lower elevation, which drives the pressure up. People who live right there at the tank, the only change in pressure that you see is the fluctuating level in the tank.
Do you think you or one of your staff could go out and just talk to this gentleman?
I'm sorry?
Could you or one of your staff just go out and talk to him and see what really is going on, maybe?
Was that the gentleman that sent the email?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mr.
well,
Kyrie.
I haven't heard from him since I sent my response, but I'd be glad to go talk to him.
I was just curious if there was any resolution. He's stopped me before on the street.
I wish there was something we could do. Really, the only thing we could, like I said, raise the tank or put in a pump, and I really don't think we want to do either one.
And we talked, you and I exchanged an email or two about this also.
Yes, sir.
Because it's an interesting problem. But my concern, by statute, we're required to put a certain amount of pressure at each water meter. So, and I think I recall you said we're well in excess of that pressure that we're required to.
Yes, sir. 20 PSI is what the Department of Health requires, and we're up, Glenn and Dale and I talked about it, and based on the water levels in the tank, it should never drop below 28 and should be up around 35.
Oh, okay.
So it's not, I don't think there's a regulatory issue here. This is.
Okay.
more of a
No,
market
Yeah,
issue.
I'm fine.
It's not regulatory, but at 20 PSI, especially like on a two-story house, you've got very little pressure on the second floor. So, I mean, I can see where he's got a complaint or wants to complain, and I can see where, I'd feel the same way if I was him. There's just not much we can do.
All right,
Okay, that's it.
Mr. Martin? I have nothing. I will entertain a motion for adjournment, though.
Yes.
All right, motion on the floor by Mr. Perro for adjournment. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. And we'll see you in August.
Yeah. You'll have a nice summer.
Yeah.
You'll see me in about another hour and a half.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
There you go.